So here I am hitting returns, and I'm going to walk you through step by step a very specific movement on the return. So first, let's just talk about some basics on the return to serve. First, you want to try to bisect where your opponent can hit the ball. So you're trying to stand equidistant, and that way, whether the ball goes down the tee or out wide, you're able to hit the ball. The next thing is you want to face your opponent. So you'll notice my opponent is on the ad side and my body is facing him. A lot of players mistakenly actually face straight ahead and then they just turn their head to look at the opponent. You want to get your shoulders, your hips, your body. You want your body facing your opponent. What I tell my students is if you had a laser beam shooting out of your belly button, you actually want it shooting straight toward the server. The next thing is I want you to notice how far back I am from the baseline. So just look where my feet are positioned. I'm about 3 feet, I would say, away from the baseline. But notice as the opponent tosses the ball up, notice I get closer and I take a step. So this is called pre-movement. Like you want to be moving into the return. And it doesn't matter how fast the return is. If you're playing Andy Roddick, yeah, you could stand really far back behind the baseline, but you still want to be moving into the return. So you'll notice I'm standing 3 feet behind the baseline, but then look, when I split step, my left foot is, like my toe especially, is touching the baseline. That's how much forward I've gone into this return. So get your body weight going forward. Some players just hop. I like to do a step and a hop, kind of like what Andy Murray does. So watch, I step forward and then I do my split step. Now, the split step timing, you don't want to land your split step as the opponent hits the ball. You actually want to try to be somewhat airborne as the opponent hits. Let me show you this. Let's go back to the serve itself. So there is the ball being struck right there. That's contact. And you'll notice I'm actually taking off at this point. My right foot is still on the ground. Left foot has already left the ground. The reason for this is there's a delay in our reaction time. And so if you land at the exact moment your opponent hits, it'll take time for your brain to realize where to go. And then what happens is you actually become sedentary and you become still. So what you want to do is time it so that you are landing after the opponent hits the ball. And when you land after the opponent hits the ball, you're actually synchronizing when your brain recognizes where the ball is going with when your feet are hitting the ground. So we're trying to get our head and our feet to react at the same time. So if you land when the ball is being hit, your reaction time takes a little while, and then you'll just be sitting there with your body and you don't get the spring action that you want when your feet hit the ground. So when your feet hit the ground, you want to spring into action. And that's best done by actually landing just after your opponent strikes the ball. Just think of it as be in the air as your opponent hits and you'll time it perfectly. Just watch the pros. This is exactly what they do. Now, I was talking about this movement forward into the court. So you can see, especially my right foot is in the green. I'm going to talk about some basics here, and then we're going to dive really deep into this. So when you are returning serve, it's best, if possible, to cut it off at an angle. You don't want, if possible, you don't want to be going straight to your left or to your right, but you're trying to get in and cut it off at an angle, especially if the ball has curve on it or the ball is like kicking out wide. By cutting it off at an angle, you actually make it easier for you to touch that ball. So I want you to watch where I end up. Let's just go all the way here and where I end up. Notice I end up in the blue. So I was able to cut it off, and I would do the same thing if I was going to my left and the ball had been an out wide serve moving to my backhand side. You want to cut it off at an angle. So just the basics here, and then we're going to talk more in depth of what I actually did with my return, is stand in the middle of where your opponent can hit the ball, face your opponent, and get pre-movement where you're back, and then you're stepping forward, split stepping, being airborne as the opponent hits, and then cutting it off at an angle. So now let's talk about what I do on the return to actually hit the ball. So there's something that I like to call split, turn, hit, step. And when I say split, I mean split step. So split step, turn, hit, step. And I want to show you that that's what I do right here. So I land the split step. I see that the ball is going to my right. And you'll notice what the pros do is the moment they land, that's when they react. And that tells you why you want to have this timing where you are landing just after your opponent hits. That synchronizes the feet with the brain when the brain reacts where the ball is going. So as soon as I split, I turn. Now, I want you to notice when I turn my shoulders that is my take back. Look how short my take back is. The racket always stays to the right of me. So what you want to shy away from is a really big backswing, because then most likely you're going to be late. So I remember watching a video of Agassi talking about the return of serve and mentioning how the shoulder turn is really all the backswing you need. And that's typically correct, especially at the higher speed, because you're going to use your opponent's speed as the force to redirect the ball back over the net. So my shoulders turn as my backswing. And so we got split. Now I turned. Now I'm going to hit the ball, obviously, but I'm also going to be stepping with this foot. So what I have to have happen is I need to hit the ball before my left foot hits the ground. So I'm going to hit, and then my left foot, this foot right here on the ground, then that foot hits the ground. So watch this again. Split, turn, hit, step. That's the aggressive nature on a great return of serve. Now, one more thing about the feet. I want you to notice this little move I make with my right foot. And you'll see the pros do this, especially when it's a good tee serve, a really out wide serve, is you'll see the foot that's closest to the ball will step. So I want you to watch this little step I take with my right foot, right there. That helps me get closer to the ball without stepping with this foot. I don't want to step with the foot farthest from the ball until I am hitting the ball. So if I need to get over to the ball, I will use the foot that is closest. I'll split, I'll step over as I'm turning my shoulders. That keeps my feet under my body so I'm on balance. And then I can explode out of that, hitting the ball and then stepping last with my left foot since I'm hitting on the right side of my body. The last thing I want you to notice how I catch the racket high up above my head. There's a video circulating. I forget who the account owner is, but it is Gasquet returning serve. And oh my gosh, does he have the perfect return where he catches it up in his left hand the same way. So let's go over all of this again. Stand in the middle of where your opponent can serve. Face your opponent and stand farther back so you can get pre-movement going forward. Try to be in the air as your opponent strikes so that when you land, you're actually synchronizing when your brain reacts to where the ball is going with when your feet hit the ground. You'll explode much faster. If the ball is far away from you, take a little step with the foot that's closest toward it, or closest to it, toward the ball so that you can get closer to it. And you'll do this as you are turning your shoulders. And the shoulder turn is all you need for the backswing. Then explode into the return, super short backswing, where you'll hit the ball and then the left foot, notice I went into the court. If you're hitting on your right side, no matter if you're left or right-handed, if you're hitting on your right side, that left foot will cross, but it'll be the last thing that happens, catching the racket if you're hitting on your forehand, catching the racket high in your left hand. So let's check out these two returns again and try to look for those things we just mentioned. Thank you so much and good luck.